No DQ Galaxy, we are live to discuss the 25th annual NoDQ.com year-end awards. One of the rare times you will see me dressing up. Now, of course, I cannot compare to the simple man, Noah Foster, who is always dressed to impress. Thank you, Noah, for being on with me tonight to discuss the year-end awards. How's it going, man? How was your Thanksgiving?
Hey, hello, Aaron and NoDQ. Good to see all of you once again. It's going well, and I hope everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving or are looking towards whatever holiday you celebrate in December. NoDQ Awards are always a unique analysis of opinions as we honor and look at the all-time greats and highs, and sometimes in the past, the lowest of lows. But this is looking very fun. I'm looking forward to see what was nominated. And, of course, I'll always have honorable mentions as I look at all the wrestling.
Well, thank you again for being on. Much appreciated that you're on tonight to discuss these categories. Now, I will read off each category. We'll go one by one, give our picks. Right now, you can go vote for Male Superstar of the Year, Male Superstar / Male Wrestler over on NoDQ.com. So do that now, and you can follow along with us. We'll be giving our personal picks for each category. So we are going to get started with the Male Superstar / Wrestler of the Year category. As it is every year, we have 6 top contenders. I put up the nominations earlier today. I compiled the results of the nominations, and the survey program I use actually has an AI built in now, so I can easily see what were the most picked nominations, and it makes the process a little bit quicker to get through. So this year we have 6 names. Let me go ahead and read them off. To me, it's a very close race this year with these 6 names. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, Noah. We got Will Ospreay, the aerial assassin, Cody Rhodes, who finished his story at WrestleMania 40, Roman Reigns, who went from being the top heel to the OTC, Gunther, the Ring General. I know he's one of your favorites. Swerve Strickland, who won the TNA, or not TNA, Botch. That's one. Let's keep a counter tonight. AEW World Championship earlier this year. And then Bryan Danielson, who, of course, won the AEW World title at All In Wembley Stadium. And this was his final year as a full-time performer. So, Noah, I'll throw it over to you. Of those 6 names, who would you go with? And you can actually pick somebody else if you want. If you have a different pick, if you have an honorable mention, by all means, share it with us. Go ahead.
Phenomenal selection here. When you figure about all 6 of these men have capsulated the world in what they bring in the ring and the stories they have told, and of course their pursuits, and of course gaining gold. Shout out to Moose, by the way, where he and the system have literally held down TNA since the rebirth of the brand since January, though. It's really close for me to think about this. I got Gunther, of course, as the workhorse of the entire industry. You got Swerve Strickland that really defined his own legacy, being a mogul of 2 businesses now, both wrestling and music. Bryan Danielson, one of the all-time greats, been a fan of his since ROH. Talk about dying a warrior's death, but been on a hell of an odyssey to conclude his final year full-time. Roman Reigns is Roman Reigns, acknowledge that. But again, different character dynamic as the OTC is reminding the bootleg blood exactly who he is. Then you got Will Ospreay, who arguably might be put up as one of the best wrestlers this generation with the matches that he's had across the world, including AEW. But how do you go against Cody Rhodes, who finished his story, you would say 2 years to Megan? I would say a career in defining, going from undesirable to undeniable to absolutely undisputed. It's a very close margin for me, but I think just because of what Cody has done and what he's been through and what he also created and also bringing out Life Force in AEW, I got to go with the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes.
It's a tough race this year. I think I will agree with you on Cody Rhodes. Winning the WWE title at WrestleMania was one of the greatest moments in the history of the business, but all 6 of these men had fantastic years, and so far on the poll, it's very close, and we'll see if that continues. You have the entire month of December to vote. Chat room, keep your comments coming. I'm seeing some people go with Cody. I'm seeing several people going with Gunther, who no doubt was one of the most dominating superstars of the year. going from the IC championship to the world championship. And of course, Will Ospreay had some of the best matches this year. I mean, banger after banger definitely applies to Will Ospreay. And Roman Reigns, of course, the star power is there. Swerve Strickland becoming a top guy in TNA. And of course, Bryan Danielson having his final run. All of them are worthy contenders in my opinion. But yeah, I think I would go with Cody on this one. And he is my prediction to win. I think he's who people ultimately vote for. But we'll see. Anything's possible. And AEW could definitely take it. MJF won the Superstar of the Year last year. So AEW certainly in the race this year. We'll see what happens.
Definitely.
All right. We're going to move on now to the female Superstar of the Year. Again, chat room, feel free to leave your predictions. I already saw one prediction on here for Liv Morgan. So we got Rhea Ripley, who was injured for part of the year, but she's very popular, and I think she's the biggest female star in the business. But is she the superstar the entire year? Well, that's up to the voters to decide on. We got Liv Morgan, who's definitely had a very significant 2024. We have Mariah May, who won the AEW Women's Championship at All In. We have Nia Jax, who was fired a couple years ago, came back and has maybe had the best year of her career. We had Mercedes Moné, formerly Sasha Banks, coming over to AEW and making her presence felt. And then over from NXT, we got an NXT pick in here. We have Roxanne Perez, who's been at the top of her game over on the NXT shows. So Noah, I will throw it over to you now and get your thoughts on this one. Again, some solid picks here. What do you think?
Well, shout out first to Jordan Grace again, who held down TNA, like I said, with TNA's existence. Because again, I also wanted to put that respect out there for TNA. Roxanne Perez, who has redefined her character, being in Lyra Valkyria for her second NXT Women's Championship and facing Jordan Grace and all comers in and out of NXT from the main roster of WWE, has been a mainstay of the business, period, including helping train some of these other women like Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley since winning the title at WrestleMania weekend. Mercedes Moné, who had a career resurgence after a year winning the TBS Championship and Strong Women's Championship, has had great matches with the likes of Chris Statler, arguably one of my women's matches of the year. Definitely got to think about her. Nia Jax reminding everybody exactly why you should put some respect on her name. She is not a work hazard. She actually is a worker. And since that resurgence, coming back and queen of the ring and becoming the women's champion against Bayley at SummerSlam, I got to give respect to her. Same for Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan was never one I considered that could carry herself seriously as a champion, but she's really helped this character move forward with Dominic Mysterio turn that I saw at SummerSlam. But how do you bet against mommy Rhea Ripley, who has been on top of the business for who knows how long? Even without the title, I still argue that outside timeless Toni Storm, and I'm surprised she wasn't part of this selection, I think I got to go with Rhea Ripley because even without the gold, she is still, I think, the most box office attraction that WWE has had literally the last number of years. I'm going with Rhea Ripley on this one.
Well, once again, I am going to agree with you. I am also going with Rhea Ripley just based off of the star power alone. As soon as her music hits, This Is My Brutality, the crowd erupts. She is a superstar. She's one of the top stars in the company. Sean, the male superstar of the year poll is up. I post a new poll every single day over on NoDQ.com. So tomorrow, Monday, the 2nd, will be the poll for the women's superstar. And then each day a new poll will go up just so it's clear out there. Anybody wanting to know how to vote, just make sure you stay tuned to NoDQ.com. Yeah. And we'll get to that in just a moment here. All right. Next up, we have the tag team of the year. We have the Motor City Machine Guns. They just debuted in WWE, but they were in TNA earlier in the year. So there you go. A TNA team up for tag team of the year. We got the Young Bucks. They had the final match of Sting's career at Revolution, and then they won the tag team titles. They reinvented themselves as the EVPs. We got Fraxium from NXT, and they've arguably been the top team for that brand. We got FTR. They've always been consistent as a top team. We got We got a couple of ladies here. We got Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. They've been the women's tag team champions throughout the year. And then we got the Judgment Day. I guess this is Finn Balor and JD McDonough rounding us out for these 6 teams. So Noah, I will throw it over to you. We already got a Fraxium pick in the chat room. We also have a Motor City Machine Guns one. What are your thoughts?
Shout out again, because I'm always going to honor the rest of the business. TNA has been on fire with Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, the system who won the TNA Tag Team Championship twice. And while I like the Motor City Machine Guns, again, a lot of their work this year before the WWE moment, it's been individual. Chris Sabin, of course, former X Division champion, Alex Zelli, former TNA World Champion. I think Fraxium has definitely been the most effective when it comes to holding the gold and regaining it. At one point, losing it to Chase U and getting it back. And despite their conflicts, Fraxium has been a very consistent tag team for the duration of 2024. And yeah, you can say the same thing about the Young Bucks, despite all the criticism you want to put towards them. Ever since winning those titles at Dynasty, they've done what heel characters had the power to do, and that's hold on to the gold by any means. And a heck of a passing the torch with the first team they signed to All Elite Wrestling, Private Party, back at Friday Night Dynamite when Private Party finally beat them. So gotta get credit where credit's due. But I think out of here, because FTR is one of the generation tag teams, but really haven't hold the gold. And Bianca and Jade, it almost feels like to me they were put together to try and move forward the division or just be a bigger image. I still feel bad for the Unholy Union personally. It was my women's tag moment of the year. But I got to go with, in this case, Fraxium, because I think they've been the most effective duo when it comes to holding on and winning tag team championships versus having a moment. Going with Fraxium here, NXT.
Oh, wow. And you've been critical of NXT after they did the 2.0 rebranding. So this is a nice turnaround. You're going with an NXT team. There you go.
I got to go with the work ethic here. I got to go with the work ethic and the absolute record. And Fraxium has been on fire this year.
I hate to say it, but I really feel like the tag team divisions haven't really had the chance to shine like in previous years.
No.
I am going to make a pick that is going to be very unpopular with people in the chat room. So get ready for this. But I'm going to go with the Young Bucks because they did, say what you will about them, they did reinvent themselves with the whole Succession makeover, coming out there in the suits, being the EVPs. And I mean, the Revolution match was excellent. People crap on them all the time, but they always deliver in the ring. The Revolution match was excellent. And they've actually been on top for most of the year. I wanted to go with Motor City Machine Guns if they had been around longer on the main roster in WWE. I mean, if they had like 6 months doing what they've been doing in 1 month, I'd make them a contender. Fraxium's a very solid tag team, but it's hard for me to pick NXT. And unfortunately, I feel like FTR haven't done a whole lot this year. They've had consistently good matches, but they've kind of been in the background. And like you said, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, I like the team, but it also feels like they were thrown together because you got nothing else for them, or maybe you want to get Jade in a tag team so Bianca can do the brunt of the work and have Jade.
She's been the carrier of that team. I'm just putting it out there. And again, no offense to Bianca Belair, but she's bigger as a single star, in my opinion. Should be.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going with the Bucks. I think that hopefully next year will be a better year for tag team wrestling, but say what you want about them. I think they deserve the recognition, and it's going to be an unpopular pick, but there you go. I don't think they're going to win. I actually don't know who will win this one. I'm very curious to see how people vote for this because
wrestling's been all muttered all over the place. There hasn't been that consistent January to now tag team focus of the business. So I'm very curious about this one.
All right, let's move on to finisher of the year. And this is tough because I feel like a lot of finishers have not been protected all that much these days. People kick out of everything. So we got Nia Jax's Annihilator, which I think has actually been pretty dominant. LA Knight's BFT, which has been effective. Yeah. Bronson Reed's, I'm not going to try to do it like Wade Barrett, the Tsunami. Maybe you can try. I don't know if you want to or not, but I'll throw it over to you in a second here. Will Ospreay's Hidden Blade, which has definitely been effective. Cody Rhodes's Crossroads, which has won him a lot of matches, but again, he has to sometimes bust out like 5 of them in a row to get the win. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of watered down a bit. And then Braun Breaker's spear, which has been very impressive in getting him some wins. So Noah, I'll throw it over to you now. What do you think is the finisher of the year? I have my pick. I already know my pick, but you go ahead with yours first.
It's one of those things where really this day and age, what do you consider a fatality, to put in Mortal Kombat terms, a real finale to a match where a person is not going to get up, even if they're convulsing after being hit with it. To your point, the Annihilator, shout out to Yokozuna, is basically a bonsai drop. But a couple of times, though, I think it has been poorly executed and it's caused more damage in the end versus a just clean win. Lyra Valkyria, for example, can't clear the ring. That was nasty. Then you got the BFT, which is almost like, 1% by EC3, if y'all remember that move. I thought it was really cool how he used basically 2 at once to hold on to United States Championship at Crown Jewel. But overall, that BFT has one guy that done every time. Nah. So, again, it's also something I have to consider. Then you have Wasp and Blade, which almost is set up for another finisher he used. I think it's been more effective whether you look at the Stormbreaker or the Tiger Driver. Hidden Blade's a heck of a move, but again, sometimes it doesn't necessarily get it done. He's done one both to the front and to the back of his opponents. Crossroads, later on in Cody Rhodes' championship run, he's proven that he can win with one, but like you said, I mean, at WrestleMania, it took a trifecta. The following match at Backlash with AJ, despite being I Quit, it took 5 of them. So, again, how many times do you bring a person over with a reverse DDT into regular DDT before they don't get up for the 3? And then Braun Breaker's spear, what Michael Cole has called the super spear, just got done watching Survivor Series War Games again. And I have to say, a very effective move based on his velocity. But at the end of the day, spear from anybody pretty much anymore doesn't necessarily get it done out of the gate. While I did get it done with Sheamus at Survivor Series War Games, I've seen that spear, for example, be kicked out by Jey Uso. So I think I got to go with the Tsunami, especially after he crushed Seth friggin' Rollins with 7 of them and almost killed somebody in War Games named Roman Reigns on a table with it. I think the Tsunami is a definitive finisher, putting all your body into it, and it doesn't matter whether you're heavyweight or cruiserweight. You don't get up from that or feel the same again. So I'm going to give it to Bronson Reed this year and say the Tsunami.
And I agree with you on that. And shout out to the Soul Snatcher. I think that's a pretty cool looking finisher, and we'll see if it continues to be a factor in the years to come. If she gets to the main roster, will that finisher continue to have its impact? But yeah, I agree with you 100% on the Tsunami. It's gotten Bronson Reed over. When he gets up there, like you can hear the crowd reacting to it, like they know something devastating is coming. So yeah, it's an event. When he comes off the top with that Tsunami, the crowd's reacting to it, and you got Wade Barrett yelling it out. Like it just worked for him. It's really worked out very nicely for him. So yeah, I agree. Finisher of the year, Bronson Reed Tsunami.
There you go.
All right. Next up, we have the announcer of the year. And this is also a category where people get a little bit confused because they're like, was it commentator or ring announcer? Basically, it's anybody who's in a speaking role in WWE who's not a wrestler. So Samantha Irving is on this list. She won last year, and she's been nominated again this year, even though she left. I feel like she's not going to win this year because people are not going to want to vote for her. But she's on the list. Michael Cole, Wade Barrett, Corey Graves, Joe Tessitore, and Pat McAfee. Nobody from AEW made it this time. So I don't know what that means, what people think of the announced team from AEW, but I digress, as Taz would say. Noah, I'll throw it over to you. Go ahead.
I think, honestly, you got to put Nigel McGuinness in the conversation. He's been one of the best, most hilarious, most unscripted color commentators I've seen in a long time. Truly, he's unmatched in his quirkiness and wit. So I'm putting Nigel McGuinness in the conversation. And yeah, Samantha Irvin, who left towards the tail end of the year, there's no argument, though, when it comes to Samantha Irvin's passion and putting character and personality to everybody's entrance, whether it's presence or quirkiness, Chelsea Green, for example. You got to still consider Samantha Irvin for what she did, not just the action that made you all be like, okay, you didn't really necessarily get into it. Michael Cole has always been the voice of WWE ever since good old JR previously had that role. So Michael Cole is always going to be held as one of the GOATs. Wade Barrett, for what it's worth, he's been pretty good as a color analyst, worked alongside Corey Graves and Michael Cole. I think he's developed more of a personality, though, now, especially because he's able to show it more to help the newest person on the block. Joe, just around for your point. But I think this year, based on the nominees and based on, again, we know what Michael Cole has been capable of, but I think Michael Cole has never been more passionate about what he does than before the start of this new era led by Paul Triple H Levesque. So I'm going to give it to Michael Cole. Respect.
The man definitely deserves his flowers, and I am close to agreeing with you. I still have to go with Pat McAfee because he's the most entertaining guy. When he is around, he entertains me like no other. And of course, Samantha Irvin had a lot of great moments, so I would be fine with her winning, although I could see people not voting for her this year. My personal pick is Pat McAfee, but Michael Cole, I would be very happy if he wins it. He deserves it. He has really been a workhorse in WWE and doesn't get enough credit for what he's done. So you make a very solid pick there with Michael Cole. We'll see what happens with that one. And now we move on to the match of the year. And there's a lot of great matches. And
baby.
You know, when it comes to criteria, like people are going to be like, what was the best technical match, or what had the most spectacular moments, or what told the best story. There's a lot of different ways that people look at a match and say that was a great match. But we narrowed it down to 6 here via the survey that I put out with the nominations. So I'm very interested in how people vote for this one. Like, this one could be really close. So we got Revolution 2024, Sting and Darby Allin versus the Young Bucks. Sting's final match. He really went out with a bang. Like, they did everything possible to give Sting the epic send-off. So that was a very memorable, fantastic match. AEW sold out the Greensboro Coliseum for that show. One of their biggest arena crowds in the history of the company. We had Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns from WrestleMania. Cody finally finishing the story. One of the biggest moments, we talked about Cody earlier in the male superstar of the year category. The main event of WrestleMania 40, very significant. Will Ospreay, who is probably not even represented enough in these listing here of matches. We got Will Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson from AEW Dynasty. And I do want to mention that Ospreay was nominated in a lot of different matches. The one with Takeshita from, I believe, Revolution was on there too. It almost made it. That one came very close to making the poll. If I had 7 or 8, it would have been on there. But we only have 6, so I had to narrow it down. We had Will Ospreay versus MJF from the July 17th, 2024 AEW Dynamite. That was another great match. And then we got Swerve Strickland versus Bryan Danielson from AEW All In. And, that was a really special moment with Danielson winning the title at Wembley Stadium. Great feel-good moment. And then we had CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre, Hell in a Cell from WWE Bad Blood. And several people in the chat room are picking that one. So Noah, I will throw it over to you now. This is a tough call. Like, how do you pick the match of the year? Go ahead.
Oh, good freaking Lord Almighty. Oh, geez. I mean, first off, the fact that it's only 6 versus insert number here of what I've watched from other companies, including TNA ROH and also further ones, including what they just mentioned, WrestleMania. I'm extremely impressed with this ballot. And by the way, shout out to women, because my women's match of the year, it's timeless Tony Storm versus Mariah May at All In. What a story and what a culmination. Congrats to the glamour. Okay, well, again, it was an incredible setup, like you said, for Sting. We had the generations of Sting represented as well. Even with the Stinger splashes, I thought that was a cool moment. Sting retiring as a tag team champion, the lasting effect of Sting and Darby Allin, the previous icon, versus arguably who could be AEW's icon, of how much Darby Allin is a centerpiece of AEW still to this day. I mean, the effect is definitely there. You want to talk about an end game where you had basically everybody you could put on your paybook to come out to make sure Corey finishes his story and put every big star you can on the marquee, not on the marquee, involved in the match that had history with Roman Reigns. You definitely had that with Cody Rhodes when he finished his story at WrestleMania 40. But again, Will Ospreay, though, he has been Mr. Match of the Year for me for a number of reasons, and this is 2 of my top 5. With the match with MJF that went nearly to an hour, and the follow-up, of course, that happened back at All In when Will Ospreay regained the title in front of his own countrymen and family. Arguably, though, when you got Bryan Danielson, Will Ospreay, you got 2 of the GOATs of all time. How funny, Billy Goat and the GOAT. And that was definitely a special match in itself, considering the connections both men have and the respect they had too, and also how more for Will Ospreay with Feud using the Tiger Driver. By the way, Matthew, thank you for that. Shout out to Mary Gold. That was an incredible match too. But if I were to pick one, especially what Swerve and Bryan did, and Swerve sometimes showing that you can't hurt me, I'm the most dangerous man, your finisher can't affect me. That one time just brushing off that bicycle knee, and Bryan getting that moment in front of his family, where he said that was even bigger than WrestleMania 30. That was his greatest moment of his career. That also echoes in my mind. And arguably what CM Punk and Drew McIntyre just recently did in Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood, with beads, inside the silver confines, bringing the Hell in a Cell back to its true, violent, pure finale nature, I thought was incredible too. But if I had to pick one, and thank goodness Revolution, not on Will Ospreay and Konosuke Takeshita. At first, that was my match leader for everything else. Oh my gosh, this is really tough and close for me. But I think I have to go with, because of how much I love Bryan Danielson, and I hold him up to one of my top 3 wrestlers of all time. I think I got to give it to when Bryan Danielson won the title at All In against Swerve Strickland. I'm going to go with All In just above Will Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson Dynasty, but it's All In for me, Swerve and Bryan Danielson.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I mean, I'm so torn on this. I mean, I'm not as much about like the technical aspect of it. I'm more about the pomp and circumstance. So because of that, I have to weigh WrestleMania a little bit higher than the rest. And Cody winning was really the culmination. It was definitely the moment of the year. I don't know if it was match of the year. Technically, I wouldn't go that far. But as far as the overall moment and crowning a new champion, I have to go with that. But by a very small margin, I would say the best technical match was Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. Then Danielson's match with Strickland was another big moment right up there. Obviously not WrestleMania, but for AEW, that was basically their WrestleMania moment with Danielson winning the title there. So, I mean, those 3 are right up there. And of course, Sting's retirement was such a great match too. I mean, they couldn't have done his send-off any better. I don't think they could have done it any better. So yeah, it's really tough. Like, and the Hell in a Cell match, was the best Hell in a Cell match maybe in years, and really allowed CM Punk to silence some of his critics, and he went out there and just killed it in the ring with McIntyre. So yeah, a lot of great choices here, and wouldn't shock me if this one's very close. And the poll will be up later this month, so make sure you guys stay tuned to NoDQ.com and cast your vote. Now, let's move on to pay-per-view of the year.
Oh no.
We got AEW Revolution, which of course had Sting's retirement, Greensboro Coliseum. WrestleMania 40, which was WrestleMania 40. Backlash France, surprised me, got on this list. I was at Virtue's wedding for that one, but people really liked that pay-per-view apparently. AEW All In, Wembley Stadium, no doubt a great event. We talked about Bryan Danielson winning the title. All Out, which took place 2 weeks after that, that had the insane Swerve Strickland, Adam Page cage match to close out the show. I mean, that pay-per-view was just insane with all the things that happened on that show. And then WWE Bad Blood that had the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre Hell in a Cell, Roman Reigns teaming up with Cody Rhodes. So some solid choices here. Noah, what was your pay-per-view of the year?
Pay-per-views for me come down to not just pop and circumstance in the stage, but the quality of matches with the quantity that you have. Now, people would say WrestleMania 40 is the easy win because you literally have everything. There's no bigger stage in the business. But again, I look at things through a wider scope. And also TNA shows have been absolutely wonderful this year. I look at Revolution arguably as one of my all-time favorite pay-per-views, not just in AEW, but ever, with the Sting send-up, with the Women's Championship match. And overall, I thought it was just a great card. There was a great of nods, especially with the Road Warriors and the Horsemen, with the tag match with FTR and the Blackpool Combat Club. Will Ospreay and Konosuke Takeshita, like you said, was this close to a match of the year candidate. And of course, I think about Swerve Strickland's first chance at the goal with Samoa Joe and him and Adam Page, the story that told, moving into Dynasty, and of course, moving into All Out. And then you have All Out, that arguably was the most violent pay that I can remember. And as a guy that loved violence, between Chris Statlander and Will Nightingale in that cage match from hell, that was one of the damnedest things I ever saw, and I absolutely loved it. Backlash France is a unique choice because it was the first one that really demonstrated and echoed the sentiments of how much professional wrestling is loved across the world, starring these international escapades. But for the most part, they kind of feel like international house shows for me with one or two matches, but the audience makes it feel like as big as a WrestleMania. But looking at this, and of course, all in, like we talked about the Bryan Danielson moment, we talked about the Will Ospreay moment, we talked about Mariah May's moment. There was a show of moments. Nigel McGuinness coming back that blew the roof off the damn place. I think for me, and again, it's just for me, all right? So fan opinion, don't like it, oh well. You guys vote for yourself. I think I'm going to give it just a narrowly because overall, I look at all the matches and which show I would go back and continue to rewatch, especially engage with my friends on watch along thoughts. I'm going to give it to AEW All In because it not only gave me my moment of the year, it gave me my women's match of the year, and that speaks volumes for me as an advocate of women's wrestling. So for me, it's AEW All In.
All right. Well, that's a solid pick, and that would be right up there with me. All In, Revolution were both excellent. I would probably go with WrestleMania just because it's WrestleMania, but yeah. I mean, it's hard to beat two nights when they got two nights and it's your Super Bowl of wrestling. It's hard to top that. And WrestleMania almost always wins these polls just because it's WrestleMania. WrestleMania basically has to flop in order for another pay-per-view to really have a chance of getting the most votes. But yeah, I think WrestleMania delivered. And when WrestleMania delivers, it's hard to top that. But yeah, I think AEW All In would be a very close second this year. All right, let's move on now to the Breakout Superstar of the Year. Chat room, leave your thoughts on this one. We got Braun Breaker. Could he break out as the Superstar of the Year this year? Jacob Fatu, Tiffany Stratton. And here we go, Noah. We got a TNA person in here. Do you believe in Joe Hendry? There you go. Joe Hendry's on the list. Stephanie Vacure made the list. She had her match at Forbidden Door with Mercedes Moné and then got signed by WWE. So yeah, pretty big breakout year for her. And then Jade Cargill, of course, finally getting into the mix on a full-time basis in WWE, winning the tag titles with Bianca. A lot of solid choices here, Noah. We got two women also in this poll. Plus we got a TNA star. TNA doesn't get in here too often. So I'm very curious as to who you'll go with on this one.
Well, honorable mentions, again, Glamour Mariah May, hell of a saga now that's all about Mariah and AEW, and also breakout Tony anywhere from NXT. Obafemi basically was unbeatable before Tony D beat him on the CW premiere. All are excellent choices. Stephanie Valkyria, of course, first signed W Superstar, now from Chile. Former, of course, CMLL Women's World and Women's Tag Team Champion. Her and Julia is an incredible duo. I saw their match in Corrigan Hall that really developed their friendship in the first place back in February in Stardom. Tiffany Stratton, everywhere you go, it's Tiffy time. It's just a matter when she's going to cash in. Of course, being brought up through the WWE draft, and Braun Breaker, who's wrecked shop with everybody, but primarily his attacks and his focus and his storylines as of late have been Jey Uso, Sheamus. Now you got Ludwig Kaiser intercepted in the mix, and Sami Zayn. But of course, now a two-time WWE Intercontinental Champion. Jacob Fatu, he is an incredible agile athlete, was one of the biggest forces to wreck shop with in MLW, and definitely he is the bootleg bloodlines enforcer. But again, Joe Hendry, when you want to talk about breakout, he's been working on the business for 10 years. He's the most viral, recognized, known wrestler in the business. His song literally is stuck in your head. And again, he's already crossed the line and challenged for the NXT championship. And people are already putting him out there as a Royal Rumble candidate. I think when it comes to breakout, you look at exposure and you look at that connection. And while you go to WWE and you're on the biggest stage, if you're actually being recognized across the business, I think you've definitely broken out further. So while Joe Hendry might have cooled down a little bit because of the loss back at Bound for Glory and also Page. Yeah, I know that was incredible atmosphere, but I've never heard such a unified front for Joe Hendry's entrance. You recorded the daggone thing. I think for me, it's close between Joe Hendry and who I think I will go for here based on just the type of year that they have. And again, he's Rex Shop. I saw him actually win the title in less than 5 minutes of SummerSlam. I'm going with Braun Breaker.
I'm torn between Braun Breaker and Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu's been on an amazing run as part of the new bloodline. But yeah, Braun Breaker has won the Intercontinental title twice now. He's been a fixture on Monday Night Raw. So yeah, I have to go with Braun Breaker. He's got to be the breakout star at some point. He's got the name Breaker. Right? I'm going with Braun Breaker for this one. Joe Hendry may have his time though. 2025, maybe he shows up at the Royal Rumble. 2025 could be his year. And several of the people on this list, like I feel like their big breakout year is still to come. Like this isn't it. They're just getting started. So I think for a guy who's really made an impact throughout the year, I think I have to go with Braun Breaker. But Jacob Fatu would be a very close second for me right now with what he's done as part of the new bloodline.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on now to the catchphrase of the year. So this is very subjective. I mean, they all are, but even this one, you just go with what you like. So we got, I love you, Solo, Jacob Fatu, Yeet, Jey Uso, yeah, LA Knight, whose house? Swerve's house, Swerve Strickland, acknowledge me, Roman Reigns. And so, what do you want to talk about? Cody Rhodes. Noah, what's your favorite catchphrase? What do you say in the shower?
Let me talk to you. I mean, again, Jacob Fatu literally has gone to bat for his tribal chief. And again, he literally sounds like he's whooping that phrase. Good grief. But again, everybody says, yeah, whether or not you have LA Knight on the mic or you just have somebody being driven in a table 10 times over, it's almost become the new yay. You don't hear yay anymore. You hear yeah. And again, yeet, it's become a movement. It is more than a phrase. It is a movement, almost like the yes movement. When Jey Uso is waving those arms, people are losing themselves more than the Eminem song. But again, whose house? Swerve's house. Thanks to Prince Nana. Go Meets. And again, creating that silly little dance. Everybody also engaged with that. A catchphrase that's actually more interactive, I think, is more worth winning versus a catchphrase that sets up something rather than just a simple singular action. Of course, acknowledge me. Used by both Roman and Solo. Kind of feels like an overused catchphrase when only one's more acknowledged than the other. So I'm not thinking about that. But I think for me, I got to go with the megastar and with the simple word, with everybody saying after LA Knight. I got to go with yeah. So for me, it's yeah this year.
All right, he did win last year, so because of that, I'm going to go with Jey Uso this year, just because, like you said, the amount of interactions he has with the fans, it's more than just a catchphrase. I got to go with Yeet, but yeah, it's definitely close. LA Knight has kept it hot in 2024, so we'll see who wins this one. And now we move on to the faction of the year. We got the OG Bloodline, we got the new Bloodline. We have the Death Riders, Jon Moxley's group. We got the Wyatt Six. We got Judgment Day. And we have the Don Callis family. So, Noah, in your opinion, the best faction of 2024 was ... Go ahead.
Well, shout out to the system again. That's been the most effective faction since Main Event Mafia and TNA honorable mention. Don Callis family, though, has gone through so many members switching in and out, though. But arguably right now of what they have with two champions, and one that could soon be the Continental Classic, it might be the strongest the Don Callis family has ever looked. And Don Callis has employed a number of incredible talents through his fan that led to storylines, including Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. And now you have Kyle Fletcher, who he's trying to turn into the new Will Ospreay, it feels like. Judgment Day, I mean, they're kind of recycled at this point. They changed themselves up now from Mommy and Damian Priest to Finn Balor and Liv Morgan. Upgrade, downgrade, you tell me. And again, Carlito, he's there. He's a body. Wyatt Six to me is very sentimental because, again, it was that idea that you thought you were going to get with Bray Wyatt before, of course, his passing. And I thought they had an incredible debut. when they destroyed everybody through the stage area. And it looks like they're really using them for those unique moments, intertwining them within the W ecosystem without affecting actually the champions at this point. And here I thought Final Testament was down the water. Now they got Final Testament in the Miz versus Wyatt 6 developing. So, and I love all the different character dynamics that each character has demonstrated for these VHS tapes that encompass what they are, whether it's the Buzzard, whether it's the Witch, whether it's the Rabbit, or whether it's Uncle Howdy himself. Death Riders is so new, you can't even think about that right now until you see what Moxley does for AEW, so I'm not even counting that. OG Bloodline is OG Bloodline. Again, we saw what happened when Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and Roman Reigns came together at War Games, but they have not been together the entire year. And I look at the year outlook as well. So as much as people like to crap on it at first, ever since WrestleMania post, you can't argue that Solo Sikoa has developed this new front that has terrorized the WWE landscape. So I have to go a new Bloodline in this case.
And I agree with you. And I think Colin said it well in the chat room that New Bloodline was overall, they had the full year pretty much of domination. And while the Wyatt 6 were entertaining in the beginning, they've kind of fallen off a little bit. Like they haven't really been doing too much. So I'm with you, Colin. We're agreeing with you. We're going with the New Bloodline for this one. And we'll see what happens with the Bloodline in 2025. But now we move on to the comeback of the year. So last year, CM Punk came back, Survivor Series, but that was just his return. He got back in the ring in 2025 with the Royal Rumble. He got hurt, but he remained a fixture on WWE programming. He's nominated. We got Roman Reigns, and I guess Roman Reigns was picked because he left for several months after WrestleMania and then came back as the original tribal chief. We got The Rock, who was gone for quite a bit, coming in as the TKO board of directors and then being part of WrestleMania 40. We got Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas, of course, with the Wyatt 6 faction. Big return for him. Nia Jax, we mentioned earlier, being fired from WWE and then coming back, having the best year of her career, arguably. And then interesting name that made the list, Bobby Lashley. After leaving WWE and coming over to AEW, the Hurt Syndicate has been well received. Some people think it's the best part about AEW television right now. So, a new lease on life for Lashley. So now I'll throw it over to you, Noah. Get your thoughts on this one.
Also, the best dressed faction in all of wrestling, by gum. MVP Shawn Benjamin, Bobby Lashley dressed to the nines. And I've also witnessed 2 of those returns live. So, again, trying not to be biased here. But yeah, it's one of those things, though, when you look at The Rock and making wrestling interesting again, and you figure about what that developed when he, of course, morphed himself into the final boss. And of course, we had that blur in the line between shoot and work kickoff party ahead of WrestleMania that developed this saga, this movement, We Want Cody, where the fans basically shape whether or not we're going to get Roman versus Rock. We saw what that developed. You figure about what impact that return to have, that has to also be taking effect. And anytime you see that electricity or you feel electricity, it's goosebumps galore. But for me, though, Uncle Howdy, again, it is extremely sentimental. It was one of those things that I felt was teased a lot longer. We knew it was coming. We just wasn't sure when. We thought we were going to get it on pay-per-view, and it didn't happen. It happened on TV, and it was executed brilliantly. And again, while they have cooled off, people are still very sentimental towards the creative outlook of Bray Wyatt, Follow the Buzzards. Nia Jax, it's really, catch and miss with me when it comes to her. But yeah, she started off the year beating Becky Lynch, of course, and has been on an upside ever since, proving all of her critics wrong. And then Bobby Lashley, he's been one of the most viral things to happen in AEW in a number of years, considering he literally came from WWE, former almighty WWE champion. But I think for me, because I was there live, and again, no words, wondering when it was going to return, had no idea. People sensed it was going to happen. You see the cause and effect from it. I got to give it to what's now calling itself the OTC. I got to give it to Roman Reigns.
All right. Roman Reigns, solid choice. And he's close for me with his turnaround. But I have to go with the guy who was gone for many years. Like, I take that into consideration with this. To me, like a comeback, yes, CM Punk came back, but he was also in AEW. So it's not like he was retired for 7 years and then came back. Like his comeback to me was 2021 when he came back after being gone for all those years. So considering that, I have to go with The Rock being gone for all those years and then developing the final boss character, which to me was a big part of WrestleMania 40 success. I mean, they were going to do great without him, but Rock being there was like the icing on the cake. And that character was so entertaining when he beat down Cody in that parking lot and made him bleed. Like that was peak entertainment. And you know, that was a significant comeback. So I got to go with The Rock, and I'm hoping we'll see more of him in 2025. But yeah, Roman Reigns is a great choice as well. And Walter's here. Walter's a little bit shocked by the 2 suits. Well, it's the 25th annual NoDQ.com year-end awards. It's 25 years. So we had to go big or go home, as they say, even though we're doing this from home. There you go. All right, next up we have the headline of the year, the biggest news story. What do you think? What news story do you think made the biggest impact? So we got The Rock, as I mentioned, joining the WWE/TKO board of directors. We got Vince McMahon resigning from WWE/TKO. We got Sting's retirement from AEW Revolution. We got Cody Rhodes finishing the story at WrestleMania 40. Like I said earlier, you know, whether it was the match of the year or not, certainly one of the biggest moments of the year. We got the announcement of Monday Night Raw moving to Netflix. That's a very big deal. And then we got the Wyatt Six debuting on WWE Raw and Chad Gable being killed in the backstage area. So Noah, what do you think was the biggest headline of the year? I mean, I could tell you based off of site traffic, but I'll let you give your opinion on it.
I mean, about to say, are we talking about site tracking or are we talking about personal opinion here? I'm just saying. I mean,
whatever you want.
Well, I mean, again, going to Netflix, it's just one of those things where WWE once again continues to be probably one of the most sought after IPs and properties in the entire world of business. And going to Netflix is a huge deal. It's an even bigger streaming foundation than Peacock, and it's literally reachable worldwide. And again, they're trying to go to 2 hours, unscripted, attitude era-esque mood, or 3 hours according to what you read as well. But that TED Talk logo, Japanese knockoff thing, come on, really? But either way, I think people are definitely going to check it out. It's going to be super huge at the beginning, and then we'll see how many people actually DVR it or just click it at random. I mean, honestly, as soon as you said the man's name, like Joe Hendry, I don't think anybody, including you, Aaron Riff, as long as I've known you since 2017, and Tito and David in the chat, nobody saw Vince McMahon not being associated with WWE in its lifetime until the man was literally flatlined. And it has literally been a new business without the man in the chair. Led by Triple H, who is basically ran by TKO, including The Rock, who's on the board. Rock being on the board don't surprise me, considering he even tried to reboot Vince's old failing project. Now he's literally part of uplifting the WWE IP with the UFC merger with Endeavor. But for me, the fact that I no longer have to say Vince McMahon and WWE in the same sentence is a crazy WTF and also an uplifting blessing for me as a fan. I gotta go with the Vince headline.
I agree with you 100%. It was, I think, the biggest story on the website, and definitely one of the most significant as far as how it changed everything in the world of wrestling, something we never thought was going to happen. You know, the sex trafficking lawsuit set that up, and just nothing else could really top that as far as just changing the business. Vince McMahon resigning, definitely the true end of an era in wrestling. So yeah, that's my pick, and I'd be surprised if it doesn't win, but there were a lot of big moments in 2024, no doubt.
Oh yeah.
All right, now we move on to theme song of the year. So Noah, what's the song you like to listen to while you're out and about doing things, various tasks or whatever? We got Kingdom, Cody Rhodes. Cult of Personality, CM Punk. Main Event-ish, Jey Uso. I Am Greatness, the new theme song, the Babyface theme song for Roman Reigns. The Final Countdown, Bryan Danielson. And Demon in Your Dreams, Rhea Ripley. Unfortunately, Joe Hendry just came short of making the final 6, so you might be disappointed with that one. He might have been your pick, but you could pick that. there's another song that you have. What are your thoughts? What's your theme song of the year?
It's one of those things where, again, how you connect with somebody in this business, unless you look at the presentation they actually come out with, that's not a Def Rebel. I still say Def Rebel was an AI, by the way. Def Rebel original soundtrack. Jury's still out on that. I mean, Code of Personality, it's a great song of Living Color. I don't care much about the latest edition of it, though, with CM Punk. It kind of fell off for me. And Jey Uso, like I said, you lose yourself more than listening to Eminem, same song of the title. And it is a moment, but Kingdom has defined Cody Rhodes across multiple companies for generations. No matter where he's been, he has that interaction. It tells his story, and downstate's one of the best things that business has right now in wrestling. I think for me, though, because Final Countdown is already a well-known song by Europe, and it's only associated with one individual, and now that it is kind of retired since Brian Dales is fully retired, I gotta go with what's still active. So for me, I'm going with Kingdom, Cody Rhodes.
It's tough to disagree with you on that one. I think I'm going to agree Kingdom, with Jey Uso's song being a very close second. You know, that is just energy. When you hear that music, you know you're in for a good time. But of course, Cody being the WWE champion, you do the song with him. People are singing the entire lyrics to the song.
Exactly.
I mean, it's wild. It's definitely an experience. And Colin disagrees with you, though. He thinks the re-record is awesome for Cult of Personality.
That's fair. I'm surprised Voices didn't make it here either, considering since it's international shows, they've been literally seeing Randy Orton entirely as well.
Yeah, and Ian says Randy Orton should definitely be an honorable mention. And I agree. Like that is up there. And of course, Joe Hendry's theme song has been a viral sensation too.
Yeah.
All right, now we move on to the Babyface of the Year, the best good guy or good gal in wrestling. We got Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, we just mentioned them. Will Ospreay is on here.
Bro.
CM Punk. We got Bryan Danielson and Rhea Ripley. What do you think about this category? Who's the Babyface of the Year?
It really comes down towards who you interpret as a babyface versus who you probably wish you could be with for one day. I mean, babyface has to be somebody that symbolizes pure kindness, hope, love, engagement, affection for the business, and everybody who follows them along with it. I think for me, it almost has to go to Cody Rhodes. Like I said, he has been a pioneer leading this charge, this era in WWE. And he's probably one, if not the biggest merch sellers right now in the entire industry. He's literally put this company on his back in a more frontal approach where he demonstrates his love for this every week versus Roman Reigns that more was like the godfather that showed up at the biggest moments. I got to go to Cody Rhodes.
I feel like I have to agree with you. And again, Jey Uso running a very close second to Cody. To me, they're neck and neck. You know, Jey Uso comes out there, the reactions he gets, but Cody's the WWE champion. That puts him a little bit, you know, just like WrestleMania has a little bit of an edge over the other pay-per-views. I think Cody being the WWE champion has a slight edge as he is the captain of the ship. He is their guy that they've built the company around. But Jey Uso definitely right up there with him. And Cody Rhodes has been the guy. He's been their John Cena / Roman Reigns 2015 that they wanted Roman Reigns to be. That's what Cody Rhodes is right now. He is their guy. He is their Superman. And he's done an exceptional job with it.
Yep. And Colin, you got to consider the stories being told. Cody's next saga of his story becoming known as being told at Saturday Night's Main Event, and you say there's a history of Saturday Night's Main Event with the Rhodes family. Just saying, Cleaver, you got to look at it deeper than that.
There you go. Agree to disagree from Noah and Colin. We move on now to the other side, the heel of the year, the villain of the year. We got the Ring General, Gunther's on here. Drew McIntyre, who's had a great run in 2024. Dominic Mysterio, who continues to be a heat magnet. We got Roman Reigns, but he did turn. So I would not vote for Roman, but he did get a lot of nominations for the beginning part of the year. Liv Morgan, who really turned it around in 2024, became a top villain. And Jon Moxley. I mean, come on. Jon Moxley put a bag over Bryan Danielson's head. It
I mean,
doesn't get more bad guy than that, trying to suffocate a man on a pay-per-view.
right?
So, I mean, go ahead, Noah.
Well, you had to bro John Moxley in there. Otherwise, I was going to say Dom because he's still booed out of the building. Although Gunther, he's been one of those heels that people respect for what he does in the ring. And again, you got to look at the character and the worker. And I think Gunther has become more favored amongst the people because of what he demonstrates. And the fact that he doesn't necessarily interact with all that in the audience, I kind of don't put him in that heel position. I just consider him right now the ultimate wrestler you have to overcome in WWE. And I'm surprised Rock isn't on here, but maybe, again, not involved enough. Since WrestleMania, you saw him one time. Plus, he humbled himself for Cody and says, your story with me is just beginning. Again, John Moxley, he tried to suffocate a freaking man, and then he got Wheeler Yuta basically to follow suit on Wrestle Dream. And John Moxley has always been that proverbial doesn't fit in the business, but still going to make sure that you know exactly who I am, and I don't give a damn what you think. That's John Moxley's MO. But yeah, at the end of the day, whether it was canned, filtered, or whether it's still somewhat artificial, nobody gets more heat right now in the business than Dominic Mysterio. And after betraying not only his father, but his mommy, that just added more heat to that for people for a number of reasons. Some people with sick thoughts, other people with a conscious thought as a character reacting to something that feels like a movie. I got to go with Dominic Mysterio here. But Drew definitely was a very socially active heel against CM Punk in his story. So I got to give Drew credit for that. But there still is no bigger heel right now in the business of WWE for me on a weekly reactive basis than Dominic Mysterio. Going with Dom.
Yeah, Dominic is excellent at just generating the heat, but as far as overall character work, I think I have to go with Drew McIntyre. You mentioned him as maybe a close second there, but he's my pick just based off of his overall work as a character. Dominic is just really good at being a prick, and he just has that ability to not even say anything and get heat. But Drew McIntyre actually turned his character around and created this whole new thing. So he's my pick. And of course, John Moxley's definitely up there with his whole deal. The Rock didn't make the list. And I actually don't think that's a bad thing because he gets a lot of cheers, even as the final boss. Like, it's a great character, but when he comes out there, the crowd pops for him. So I can't really go with him as a top heel when he gets cheered by a lot of the fans. So
does MJF. It's like, what's a heel if you're not being booed out the freaking building or making the audience actually hate you versus them egging on with you?
Yeah. And Drew McIntyre, Dominic is also kind of like a cowardly heel, where Drew McIntyre is a heel, but he's also very vicious. I want to see a nice vicious heel in a top spot, like somebody who has some credibility. Dominic's kind of like that undercard guy. He's always going to get beat up, kind of like what The Miz was years ago, like that guy that you just want to see get punched in the face. That's Dominic. But Drew overall with the character and just going out there and being a vicious heel too on top of it. Like Gunther was vicious. Dominic was very hated, and Drew McIntyre was hated and vicious. So that's why I give the edge to Drew McIntyre for his dominance and the ability to get heat and get people hating on him. So it's a tough one. I mean, there's definitely a lot of solid choices in this one. But we'll move on now to the feud of the year. So what was the best feud of 2024? We got Adam Page versus Swerve Strickland. I mean, somebody's house got burned down. That was quite the feud. We had syringes involved. Like, that was an intense feud. We had CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. They fought over a bracelet, but then they had one of the best Hell in a Cell matches in several years. We had Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan. We had the ultimate betrayal with, and we're talking about Dominic, Liv Morgan going over to Dominic Mysterio, Dominic turning against Rhea. We got the OG Bloodline versus the new Bloodline. Another great storyline, culminating with Survivor Series War Games. We got Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, which was the WrestleMania 40 storyline. And then, Noah, this might be a sentimental favorite for you. We got a women's one in here. We got Toni Storm versus Mariah May. So they got the nomination here. So what are your thoughts? I mean, this is another tough category, I think.
It really is, and like I said, there is not enough women's representation when it comes to these awards. Honestly, especially when it comes to storylines and feuds. But again, each one definitely played their point. I look at a feud, I look at how it evolved, I look at how it ends, and then I look at the aftermath if it's already began. So going right out there with Timeless Toni Storm versus Mariah May coming at the beginning of the year, being Timeless Toni Storm's biggest fan, now being like a sister to her. Timeless Toni Storm literally letting her use her clothes, use her moves. He literally was right by her side, had the time of her life, so much fun, then betrayed her in bloody fashion after winning the Owen and demonstrating the sinister nature behind the glamour that culminated in her having her moment in Wembley Stadium in front of all her country women and men and slapping her own mother. Damn. But since then, Mariah May's kind of cooled out as champion. While she's been very dominating as a champion, possessive, it's kind of had some stutter sets in my opinion without that really big other half trying to go after her since Mina. So it's up there for me, but it's not going to necessarily be my feud of the year. I mean, again, we talked about the evolution of Drew McIntyre's character. Again, like you said, socially active, vicious. We've also seen crossovers of that in NXT when CM Punk went to go see one of his self-proclaimed daughters in Roxanne Perez, who said at one point, I'm a bigger Drew McIntyre fan than I am a CM Punk fan. Damn it. And of course, it really escalated after CM Punk cost Drew McIntyre the title at WrestleMania, at Clash of the Castle, and at Money in the Bank. Again, Bloodline is Bloodline. It's the never-ending story. And yes, we saw the culmination so far of this saga at War Games with the OG Bloodline getting the win, but Soulja Killa still has the rule that follows. So as far as I'm concerned, it still isn't freaking over. I'm thinking about feuds right now that ended to be my feud of the year. And Cody and Roman, it ended up WrestleMania. Nothing more has happened since then except Cody and Roman tagging one time. Rhea and Liv, it's still ongoing. And after Rhea pinned Liv Morgan again, at War Games, I guarantee you we're getting that match at some point. It went probably Netflix premiere. So looking at developing feuds and actual conclusions, I gotta give it to CM Punk and Drew McIntyre because we haven't seen Drew since he got obliterated inside Hell in a Cell. There's no telling when he's going to come back and how he's going to come back. That was an end game, and whether it started with beads and family, it still was a hell of a finale. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre.
I agree with you. The Bloodline storyline, I think, has presented some of the best television segments of the year. But if we're talking not just TV segments, but also the matches culminating with Hell in a Cell, I think Hell in a Cell was better than the War Games match, but that's just my own personal opinion.
Oh, I agree.
I have to go with the Hell in a Cell match and that feud overall. But Bloodline, as far as TV segments go with Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns, and even CM Punk being involved, like that's been some of the most compelling TV segments of the year. But CM Punk and Drew McIntyre had some good ones as well. So, yeah, I think I got to go with CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. And it lasted like the whole year because McIntyre hurt Punk at the Royal Rumble. Punk cost him at WrestleMania. And then, it continued with Punk being the referee at SummerSlam. And then they finally had their series of matches culminating in Hell in a Cell. So it was a lengthy feud, and it happened throughout the duration of 2024. Like you said, the Bloodline is ongoing. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley is ongoing. And quite frankly, Toni Storm versus Mariah May is ongoing. There's still likely more to come from that. And Hangman Page and Swerve would definitely be up there as well. And who knows? They might not be done. We never know what's going to happen with that.
I don't know how much further you go with those two besides KOing a man while sedated, Aaron. I'm just saying.
I mean, fair point. All right, let's move on now to the most underutilized of the year, most underrated it's been called over the years. Basically, who has not been used enough? Who is somebody who is underappreciated in the company they work for or in the business in general? So we got Chad Gable, Finn Balor, Ricky Starks, Chelsea Green, Andrade, and Carmelo Hayes. Noah, I'll throw it over to you. Of those six, who do you think is the most underappreciated, underutilized, underrated?
Chad Gable, Finn Balor, Chelsea Green, Andrade, La Sombra, Carmelo Hayes, and who was the other?
Ricky Starks.
Oh, well, there's your answer. I mean, literally, that guy, you thought when he first arrived into AEW, they would have strapped the rocket to him, and he hasn't been utilized since losing the AEW Tag Team Championships to Sting and Darby Allin. I'm just going to say that right there, but maybe that's a softball because, again, he already retorted what he's been basically figured about when it comes to not sitting on the sidelines, having so much more to give when it comes to Chris Van Vliet interview and that GCW shoot. But anyway, being realistic here, Finn Balor, again, is he really been underutilized considering now he's literally in charge of the Judgment Day and has this ongoing saga with Damian Priest that kind of has been underlined ever since Damian Priest became a campeon. Chelsea Green is not underutilized, but she is damn sure underrated. She should be the freaking United States Women's Champion. No contest. She is the most reliable and utilized moment-filled worker of the year in WWE. Bite me if you think otherwise. Andrade, though, who came back, again, great saga with him and Carmelo Hayes, and both men, you kind of can jockey for how they've been used. That's why they had a best of cemeteries amongst each other, because they maybe had nothing else to do with them. And then, of course, they culminated that LA Knight triple threat for the United States Championship. And why Chad Gable, again, he resigned, so clearly Triple H has intentions for him, and he's been part of Wyatt Six's debut. So to think about what you said, not under necessarily appreciated, but underutilized, who has been seen the least this year? Absolutely, Ricky Starks.
I agree with you. Ricky Starks would be my pick. Chad Gable has been underutilized for years, and it felt like they were finally going to take him up a notch, but then he kind of fell back down again. So that sucks. Chelsea Green would be a great candidate for United States champion. A lot of people like her. And, all these names should definitely be used more than they are. Finn Balor's been around, but they haven't really done much with him as of late. And he's always delivered. So, yeah, all great choices. But Ricky Starks is the one who's been on the bench for almost the entire year when he should be one of their top stars. So there you go.
Watch now. They're going to actually put him in the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal just because we talked about him this coming Wednesday.
Hey, if that's what gets him back to TV, then I'll be very happy about that.
Same, especially if he wins.
Yep. All right. Next up, we got the talker of the year. So the best promo guy. The Rock did make this list. The Rock is on here. The Rock is on here. LA Knight, CM Punk, MJF, Drew McIntyre. I mentioned his character development earlier as a heel. And Kevin Owens, who's done some great stuff with Cody Rhodes as of late. So a lot of great choices here, too. Noah, who's the talker of the year?
Well, when you think about talker, you also want to make sure they're not a guy that simply gets a what as they speak when they pause, because I think that already deflates them right there. And people need to give more respect to those type of people that are trying to be that proactive talker and promo on the mic. This is really hard, though. MJF knows how to stick it to everybody. You love him and hate him at the same time, and you could always thank him later. CM Punk, he is Mr. Pipe Bomb, and when he speaks, people listen. And again, we talked about how he's judged at the likes of Drew McIntyre, but you also talked about Drew McIntyre's metamorphosis, going into that vicious mode, trying to play the victim, but also saying that I'm also the savior here because I'm helping you guys being removed from CM Punk. LA Knight, he is always a master on the mic. There is no denying that. Whenever that man is on the mic, it is money. It is motivation. It is something that you listen to, and he can literally wordsmith you all day with metaphors and similes. Kevin Owens, as of late, has become a very unique talker, especially talking about how Cody Rhodes' 2 years has been about what Kevin Owens has been fighting his entire career. And I thought that was a very unique promo. But again, that promo game really didn't pick up until later on this year. So again, I look at who has been the overall strongest talker. When as soon as he's on the mic, you're going to listen to him. More often than not, I think I got to go with Drew McIntyre. Because again, like you said, he really broke out this year with that feud with CM Punk. I'm going with Drew.
Very, very solid pick there. And he's up there for me. But the thing is, when The Rock is around, nobody else can touch him. When he's cutting promos, you don't F with the final boss and all the stuff he said when he was out there building up the match with Cody, talking about Cody's mother. Like, The Rock is The Rock. When he's around, nobody can touch him, not even MJF.
Not even for half a year, apparently, when literally he's only been here for 4 months.
Exactly. The Rock is my pick. But as far as the regulars, Drew McIntyre would probably be my pick after that. Cleaver Colin Andrews, shout out to Colin, who sent in a $2 super chat, says, thanks for the fun tonight, guys. # sharp dressed men. Appreciate it, Colin.
Take care, brother.
Yeah, we love you, Colin. Hope to see you soon. We got title change of the year. So, what was the best title change of 2024? Here are our nominees. We got Sami Zayn winning the Intercontinental title from WrestleMania 40, beating Gunther, of course. Cody Rhodes winning the undisputed WWE Universal title, also at WrestleMania 40. Gunther winning the World Heavyweight title at SummerSlam. Bryan Danielson winning the AEW World title at All In. There you go, Noah. Jey Uso winning the Intercontinental title on Raw. And then the Motor City Machine Guns coming in first night, winning the tag team titles on SmackDown. So what do you think about this one, Noah?
Well, it's one of those things where, again, the lasting impact of that title change and how massive of a moment it was and the emotions that you feel. In a way, I don't want to go with the obvious, but I feel it has to be that. But I think it's really special that a tag team specialist his entire career won his first singles championship in impressive fashion after kicking out of his opponent's finisher, might I add, with no outside interference. So a soft spot for me wants to give it to Jey Uso, but then I saw what they did with the Bloodline storyline overtaking his singles potential with Braun Breaker immediately getting the title back. At the end of the day, Cody Rhodes slayed. While The Rock was the final boss, Roman Reigns was God. Roman Reigns was slayed after 4 years holding this company and this championship hostage on the grandest stage with the assistance of every adversary, the biggest adversaries that he faced during his title run. If you don't give it to Cody finishing his story at WrestleMania, it's extremely difficult for me to see you give me a viable case. I got to go with Cody Rhodes being Roman Reigns.
I agree with you, and Bryan Danielson winning would be right up there as my close number 2. Both of those moments were great. Both feel good moments in wrestling, and I think Cody will ultimately win just because it was such a significant moment, like you said, ending the very dominant run of Roman Reigns as champion. All right, now our final category. We got the weekly show of the year. So what was the best wrestling show, weekly wrestling show of the year? We got SmackDown, Dynamite, Raw, NXT, Collision, and Noah, TNA Impact. So there you go. TNA got on another poll here. What's your pick?
Well, this is always tricky for me as somebody that watches all the shows across all things wrestling, including these and more. Heck, I still look at NWA and ROH. What does that tell you? But again, I look at roster power. I look at the compelling stories, the biggest stories, although lately, brand split, LOL. It's one of those things right now that I'm very torn with when it comes to storytelling and then in-ring worker quality. If you're only looking at in-ring worker quality, it's AEW all day, every day, especially with Dynamite, where every show's felt different every week, though Collision has given me some unique encounters this year. TNA is always going to be TNA for me because it always has a great balance of in-ring work and backstage interactions to build towards their monthly. If you want to call them PLEs, go with that. I'll say TN Plus specials, which then leave Raw and SmackDown. Now, let's see. Which show have I cared more in the existence of WWE this year, particularly based on roster, based on champions, based on stories? Let's see. Goober right now, of course, World Heavyweight Champion. That happened at SummerSlam. Cody Rhodes has been the mainstay face of SmackDown. Roman Reigns, of course, Bloodlines on SmackDown. OG Bloodlines on SmackDown. Bootleg Blood on SmackDown. One's got Judgment Day. The other one's got the Bloodline. Intercontinental Championship, United States Championship. I'm looking at what I've cared more about seeing on the marquee. Raw's had some unique angles, but I still think they've been spinning their gears. And again, Raw's still the longest running weekly episode television show in history. But shout out to NXT, by the way, morphing into the silver and gray. They've also been on a great run, but in the best women's roster I've seen in years, not named TNA. But I think for me, I'm going to go with SmackDown because of what Cody Rhodes has done as WWE champion. This building of this bootleg bloodline that led to a reunion of the OG bloodline, culminating at Survivor Series War Games, was the bigger story for me versus Raw with more single stories, particularly Drew McIntyre and CM Punk carrying the load. But I think for me, by a narrow margin, I'm going to go with the wrestling brand I still hold it as in WWE before NXT existed. I'm going to go with SmackDown.
All right. Well, that's a fair pick. I mean, I think I think Raw was actually stronger in the first half of the year during WrestleMania season, but once Roman Reigns came back, I think SmackDown really picked things up.
Yep.
And Raw, this is crazy for me to say because I complained about the 3-hour shows for the longest time, but I actually feel like Raw hasn't hit as a 2-hour show like the 3-hour shows earlier this year. I think they finally got those Raw shows at a high quality earlier this year. At 3 hours, I think they really found what worked for Monday Night Raw as a show. And you had Gunther and Sami Zayn. You had The Rock for the WrestleMania build and Cody Rhodes. So I think I'm going to go with Raw overall, but by a small margin. SmackDown definitely picked it up over the last couple of months with the Bloodline storyline. But it's very close for me. But I'm going to have to go with Monday Night Raw just because I remember The Rock beating up Cody Rhodes, and I just remember a lot of the matches involving Sami Zayn and Gunther, and they gave the matches a lot of time. Like with the 3-hour show, like they did focus more on the actual wrestling and gave the guys more time to go out there and have really good matches. So for me, that goes to Monday Night Raw for the balance of having the great wrestling and having the soap opera stuff and the drama with like Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio, Drew McIntyre, CM Punk. I got to go with Raw, but it's very close for me.
Yeah, that's fair. And again, we've seen the rise of Tiffany Stratton on SmackDown, her saga with, of course, Naomi. We've also, of course, seen the rise of Nia Jax and Tiffany and seeing that dynamic. And Bayley, of course, been trying to hold down the SmackDown women's division. I would like to think that really SmackDown morphed into something better after the drive and after WrestleMania. But Raw's kind of kept that steady pace. And even in the 2-hour format, Raw has kind of tried to find that balance. It used to have once it was 2 hours, but I think it's kind of star-step right now. And maybe that's also because of the time of the year that we're at, where I feel like everything right now is in, again, a reset stage. I mean, we're supposed to be on the road to WrestleMania, technically, for Pete's sake, and we still have Saturday night's main event. I think that's going to be more SmackDown-centric than Raw-centric at this point.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so that's it for the No DQ Year-End Awards. You can vote over at NoDQ.com. A new poll will go up every day throughout the month of December, and you have the entire month to vote. So stay tuned to No DQ on the social media outlets to vote. Noah, thank you so much for being on. A pleasure, as always, to have you on. Thank you for doing the Predictions League. Congratulations on tying with Sun Goshuaku with the predictions. Great work. And anything you would like to plug?
Again, always grateful to you and the entire NoDQ family, and it's a pleasure being back here, being involved in this content. I'll be back soon on the review too. Again, folks, you want to follow and engage with me, Prediction Leagues, positivity, and wrestling, find me on the Twitter and on YouTube and Foster9016 for all things wrestling. As always, I only want to encourage you, just enjoy life and enjoy wrestling too. Keep saying, yeah, NoDQ. And again, Aaron, there's still 4 Prediction Leagues left that I host, of course. NXT will culminate this coming weekend with Deadline. TNA closes with Final Resolutions, and go get some nice gifts for your family from NoDQ.com, folks. AEW culminates with World's End. Of course, I always honor Ring of Honor, bringing the Ring of Honor League to a close with Final Battle. So we'll see who takes those. And as far as who won the WPL League for the Galaxy, stay tuned tomorrow, folks.
All right, there you have it. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Enjoy your December. Happy holidays to everybody out there. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and we will see you all next time.
Have a good night, folks.